Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
What's up, Tag Me In Bro Universe? This is Taryn, and we are here with another episode of Tag Me In Bro. Still not even finished with an amazing, almost full week of wrestling, from NXT TakeOver to Money in the Bank, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT tonight. I hope you guys aren't tired. I'm certainly not tired of it. So now we're going to get down to business, recapping another episode of SmackDown Live, but you guys don't want to miss one single second of Tag Me In Bro content. Guys, we do polls, we do fan predictions, we do recaps of Raw and SmackDown every week, we do our own predictions for pay-per-views. So go on Twitter right now, follow Tag Me In Bro. You will not be disappointed, and then I hope you're excited for the show, because we are about to get down to it in a big way. Today, tomorrow, and every day, we are talking wrestling here in the Tag Me In Bro universe, especially today. It's very, very hot outside in the city. It's like in the upper 80s, but wrestling is getting us through the heat. First things first, we're going to cover our SmackDown speed through, which, if you're new, is where we'll give you our analysis of the most important bits of last night's show. After that, we've got our Hi to the People segment, where we want to engage with you guys to find out more about your views on a particular topic. This week, we're going to be talking about James Ellsworth. Happy to see him back. Ready to see him leave already? We will find out. Then we'll move on to our main event, where we'll be talking about the question on everybody's mind this week. This week, we're going to be talking a little bit about Big Cass. Not necessarily the speculation surrounding his release, but what that release has on the creative storytelling power of the SmackDown Live roster. Then we'll close out the show with our stars of the night. So without any further ado, let's get to the SmackDown speed through. Woo! Here are the only 5 things you need to know about SmackDown Live this week. Number 5, the return of James Ellsworth. Number 4, Becky Lynch versus Billie Kay. Number 3, Jeff Hardy brings back Willow. Number 2, Sanity has finally arrived on SmackDown Live. And number 1, the main event, the gauntlet match for the number 1 contender for the WWE Championship. And how it ends with a very happy Rusev Day. Okay, so getting straight down to business. At the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, we saw the return of James Ellsworth and Carmella's SmackDown Live Championship match against, or Women's Championship match against Asuka. So, for those of you who potentially didn't see or haven't seen yet, Asuka is fighting Carmella. A figure comes out looking exactly like Asuka in like robes and a mask, and it is revealed to be James Ellsworth. Obviously, Asuka becomes distracted before this revelation. Carmella steals the win and remains your champion. Seeing Ellsworth back, so he reappeared on SmackDown this week yet again in the robe. It's interesting. It's interesting to see Ellsworth rear his head at this Money in the Bank. It's kind of interesting that the company didn't decide to forget about James Ellsworth. Obviously, we know that the WWE has no problem trying to rewrite history when things don't necessarily go their way or when relationships turn sour. And while I don't think the relationship that the company had with James Ellsworth ever turned sour, certainly the backlash surrounding a man like winning the first ever women's Money in the Bank was a large misstep that I think the company felt. And while Carmella carried it well as a heel, and while the year after that was spent really rebuilding that, I found it interesting that they put him back in it. Do we think he's around to stay? I think potentially. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later, because I'm very curious to see how you guys feel about his return. Number 4, Becky Lynch versus Billie Kay. So the Iconics came out and gave a promo. It wasn't their best, and I love the Iconics. I think they are absolutely dynamic on the mic. It wasn't really their best, and it was just them talking about how Becky Lynch lost again, which also, maybe I'm a little bit bitter. It is so salt in the wound. I really, really always root for Becky and really wanted her to win the Women's Money in the Bank championship. Obviously, I think the way that they did it with Alexa Bliss was actually fantastic, but it made it hard. It made it a little hard to watch. I don't think it was their smartest stuff, but then Becky Lynch and Billie Kay proceeded to have a match. Becky Lynch won. Yay! We love when Becky Lynch wins on TV. And actually, it was a great match. It was great in that Becky really came out the exact way that she needed to. She came out strong. She came out fiery. She came out confident. She was really there to prove why she is a top female competitor on the SmackDown roster and in the WWE in general. And I think that performance was very, very strong. So congrats, Becky. It does mean the Iconics are still, what's the opposite of undefeated? They have not won a match since their debut, which is a little disconcerting, but right now I do think they're strong enough as just a bullying tag team that it hasn't hurt them permanently just yet. But just an interesting note. Number 3. So Jeff Hardy had a promo where he talked about his match last week and how when he got kicked in the back of the head, it Shinsuke's Kinshasa evoked or awoke in him this character, and he could never be the same. He turns around, he's the black and white face paint and the contacts. His Impact gimmick that it looks like he is bringing back was called Willow, and it is this face painted character. Jeff Hardy with face paint is cool, Jeff Hardy. I do think it is absolutely prime. The contacts were cool in the promo video. Obviously, he didn't face the camera for his whole speech. Then he turned around, he had the contacts, he had the face paint. It was really kind of an exciting turn for Jeff Hardy, who I think, I love Jeff Hardy. He was definitely missed at Money in the Bank, but it was a very cool turn. I'm very excited to see what he does with it, because I think it allows a character, what feels like a character wrestler like Jeff Hardy, to play more into that. And I really think when wrestlers like Hardy in a character or Orton as a heel, when they get to play into those personas, I think they do some of their best work. So it's really exciting to see what he'll do with that, especially as the US champion. Number 2, Sanity finally made it. We talked, I think, last week and the week before about how since their announcement on the SmackDown Live roster, they were just completely unseen, never heard from again. Obviously, we saw Nikki Cross have a title opportunity at NXT TakeOver Chicago. But it was, we've been questioning it. We've been where are they? You guys said they wouldn't come out for 40 years. I kind of agreed. It was unclear. A lot of people thought they'd show up at Money in the Bank. That was a big rumor going around, and I thought that was a valid one. I thought that would be an exciting debut, but I'm actually really happy with the way they did it. So the Usos came out, gave a speech. Also, the Usos, who we've missed. I had missed them. Very happy to see them. But came out and talked about how to make it in the WWE, you have to show people your heart, you have to be real, you have to have a couple of screws loose. And then Sanity appeared. They had a Tiff Sanity kick the shit out of the Usos, which was actually great to see, because I don't think it damages the Usos in any way. I think it sets up something really exciting for Sanity, especially after we've waited so long to see them appear. And I really hope that, honestly, I hope that the Uso feud doesn't continue very long, even though it's something I'd love to see, because I hate the Bludgeon Brothers as champions, and I would love to see Sanity put into that program to dethrone the Bludgeon Brothers as quickly as possible. And let's just throw the belts on them. Let's waste no more time. And number 1, the main event was the gauntlet match. So Paige opened the show by through a video announcement where she said that there would be 5 competitors vying for the opportunity to become the number 1 contender to AJ Styles' WWE Championship. Now, the 5 competitors in this match were Rusev, Daniel Bryan, The Miz, Big E, and Samoa Joe. Now, there were several little bits throughout the night. Daniel Bryan had a bit with Renee Young where he had said I'll beat 3 of the best competitors. He purposefully left out The Miz, a great moment, because he was The Miz isn't the best. The match was really, really well done. I will say I'm a little surprised by the ending, not in a bad way. That's almost the mark of a great wrestling match, simply because there were so many worthy competitors. I think it lacked a little bit of the spot magic that some of the past Raw gauntlet matches have had. But then again, it's really hard if you don't have a Seth Rollins and you don't have a Finn Balor. It can be difficult to maintain that kind of pace, energy, and that kind of acrobatic skill set and like wow factor in the match. They had Daniel Bryan for that. Daniel Bryan kicked off the match absolutely fantastically. He eliminated Big E and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe had a power slam where in the replay it showed that he kind of went head first on Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's head definitely made contact with the mat. We obviously hope that is not a problem and that it never will be, but that was a really, really scary moment. Then the Bludgeon Brothers came out, did this weird thing. I don't understand what they're doing with this, where the Bludgeon Brothers like kind of stepped to Daniel Bryan before the match started. They came out and like they did their finisher, which isn't even that cool, on him. But the one great thing that it led to was that The Miz ran out super quickly, skull-crushing finale, 1, 2, 3, Daniel Bryan's eliminated. Again, a big shock factor. I thought that Daniel Bryan might go Iron Man for this one, especially since he is the only competitor of his kind in that matchup. Like, he's a little small, he's a little more erudite. His pace is a little faster, but it was a great shock. It was a great reaction moment for The Miz and Daniel Bryan, a feud I will wait until the ends of the earth to see. Then we had The Miz come out. We had The Miz versus Rusev, and Rusev won. Amazing, totally amazing. Great, like, arc, great storytelling. Obviously, you're so mad at The Miz. He just eliminated Daniel Bryan. Rusev wins. Happy Rusev Day. The celebration was cut slightly short as AJ Styles' music hit. He comes out, lays down the belt, shakes hands with Rusev. Aiden English tries to get in there and, like, slide one by AJ Styles and gets knocked to the ground. Fabulous. Wonderful main event. Such an excellent way to end an overall really, really good SmackDown Live. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been our SmackDown speed through. We thought the episode was good. I think that some of the promos were lackluster, and unfortunately, that does come from the women's division. I thought that Carmella's fake face turn back to being a heel was just a cheap imitation of an Alexa Bliss version of the exact same promo. I thought that the Iconics have been stronger in their promos before, and really those are the only two things that keep this from being like an incredible episode of SmackDown. But overall, the quality of wrestling was really, really good. The show was really good, and I'm excited to see how it keeps going in the future. But let us know your thoughts on social media. And speaking of social media, it is time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we want to know your thoughts on whether or not you are excited to see Ellsworth return to Carmella's side. We'll be running a Twitter poll for the next 72 hours and discussing the results here on our show next week, so let us know exactly what you think. You can vote on Twitter by tweeting at us using the hashtag #HotTag. You can email us if you want, but share your opinion, comment, retweet, share it. Let's get it out there, and maybe you can have your thoughts read out on the show next week. Every week, I read out some of my favorite responses, as long as they're not weird spoilers. Please don't spoil stuff. Please. But speaking of, let's talk about the results of last week's topic. So last week, we asked you guys who would be the most missed superstar from the SmackDown Live brand in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And your answer was far and away Jeff Hardy. Guys, we had over 400 votes. Woo! Thank you. Jeff Hardy had 43% of the vote. Overwhelmingly, the person that you guys said you would miss the most. And that's totally understandable. Jeff Hardy is a legend, an absolutely incredible competitor. And Money in the Bank is such a great setup for him. The second most missed was Daniel Bryan, obviously still on the card, but in a match that it didn't seem worth it. Then Andrade Cien Almas with 18% of the vote. And lastly, cashing in with Shelton Benjamin with 16% of the vote. Some of our favorite comments were at Preston316, who said he was shocked Hardy wasn't included. Money in the Bank is his playhouse. And again, I totally agree. When you've got ladders, when you get all those little extra fun bits, it seems like such a Team Extreme moment that not having Jeff Hardy a part of it seems almost crazy. And Ice, or at Mikhail_Ice, said, Shelter in ladder matches is always money. Jeff obviously is as well, but Shelton deserves some recognition. I thought that was really interesting just to see those two different sides of how the vote turned out. But yeah, overall, I did think that the men's ladder match was like pretty decent, but I think that Jeff Hardy in that moment never seems like a bad idea. So very cool. Thank you guys for participating. Remember to go vote in next week's topic. And now it's time for our main event. This week in our main event, we are going to be talking about how Big Cass's release will impact SmackDown Live. That's through creative storytelling, through the matches, the show as a whole. Joining me is my co-host Tommy Rowe.
What's up?
Who is also the fellow new Tag Me In Bro Heavyweight Champion.
Except for the fans, because the fans are smarter than all of us.
Which is true.
But they can't hold a belt because they're nebulous and indistinct. So I guess we won?
I guess we won! Yay! It was so much fun to see your guys' predictions. So much fun to keep up with the scorecard that Joe was kind enough to continuously update. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with it. So until next time, we are your current belt holders. But let's get away from all of that. And now back to Big Cass. So for those of you who may not know, although I suspect basically everyone does, Big Cass was unceremoniously released from the company yesterday.
And not given well wishes.
Something that is uncommon, let's say,
Yes.
for most superstars in their relationships with WWE. But today, we're not going to talk about why he was released or why people think he was released. We're just going to talk about how that potentially impacts the show SmackDown Live, because he obviously was just at the end of, now we know, or potentially in the middle of this feud with Daniel Bryan, a massive superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's see what that means. I guess, Tommy, what are your thoughts on Big Cass and the contributions he could have made to SmackDown?
Well, I would say that Big Cass as a character was he's been holding better talent back. I think for SmackDown Live, the show, obviously, wish him the best of success in whatever he does, unless he's a really bad person, and we find out about that later. But he is the kind of talent that was taking up a space that I think other people could have. He was holding, I think, Daniel Bryan back a little bit. Daniel Bryan could have been in a better feud. I do think SmackDown Live is better off without him. He, after being unceremoniously ripped apart from Enzo Amore in that weird feud where they broke up and then he got injured, then he came back. These were very damaging things for him as a character, and to keep him as a heel was an interesting choice. He's not charismatic particularly, so I don't know if he would have worked as a babyface. Big Cass as a character, to me, is damaged without a manager type, and that's what Enzo was. Enzo was great at talking and great at giving Cass the hot tag. He hits an Empire Elbow, river crossing, whatever the name of his other signature move was. And without that, he doesn't really have a lot of depth. Not that great on the mic. I do think that for SmackDown Live as a show, I think the show is better off without him. Yeah.
I do think that, I totally agree that I don't think that Big Cass ever had the charisma necessary to be a top-level talent. For me, I don't think Big Cass was a main eventer. I think it's fairly evident that the WWE thought otherwise. You know, he's got the stature that they tend to go for in their, leading men. I think it shows a lot of trust in him that they placed him immediately in a feud with Daniel Bryan, especially considering Daniel Bryan's, medical past. I think that shows so much promise on behalf of the company to him. Mm-hmm. But I agree. I never thought he was a main event talent. What I think could have been interesting with Big Cass is that SmackDown Live right now, I think, is really lacking a solid, true mid-card. I think that a lot of the people on SmackDown Live that are serving in mid-card roles, take, a Jeff Hardy, they're not mid-carders. Jeff Hardy is a legend. Jeff Hardy is a main event talent. I mean, as the fans just told us, he was the person that they missed the most from Money in the Bank, and yet he's holding what is notably known as a mid-card title. And I think that with the lack of someone like a Dolph Ziggler type, who we see on Raw right now kind of ushering in the future that is Drew McIntyre, I think Cass could have served as that enhancement role for certain new talent. I mean, look at some of the new talent we don't see week to week. We don't see Ty Dillinger, R.I.P., every day of my life. But to have a feud that was Ty Dillinger and Big Cass had some heat. Was it nuclear? Was it Roman Reigns heat? No, but he had enough heat that if you saw him with someone that you wanted to succeed, I do think you'd pop the face even harder.
True.
So I think that could have been an excellent role for Big Cass moving into the future. What's hard is that I don't think that they ever saw that for him. I think they wanted to usher him straight into the stratosphere, and I think that was not something that was going to be plausible.
I agree, but at the same time, like, he was placed in his first big feud on SmackDown after coming to the brand. He was placed in a feud with Daniel Bryan, and yeah, okay, so he has a little bit of heat that's been concocted by a really bad promo and some really insensitive kicks to the face of a little person. If you look at someone who could actually be taking his spot, like, could you imagine Andrade in that spot? What is Big Cass even doing on SmackDown Live if Andrade isn't on television? For the last 2 big pay-per-views, for the last 2 months, we have been not invested in this feud, and it's all thanks to Daniel Bryan being over as fuck that we even watched the feud. If that had been Andrade, this would have been those would have been 2 amazing matches rather than just sitting there being like, all right, hope Daniel Bryan wins.
I think that is...
like, Andrade,
excellent.
Come on, where is he? He could have been in this for 2 months.
I think that is an excellent point. I think that is what I would like to see happen in the future. You're right. Andrade Cien Almas versus Daniel Bryan at Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
That would have been great. And he could be this mid-card enhancement talent. He could be the guy who ushers in new NXT stars, being an NXT star himself. He has so much upside. The fact that Big Cass stood in his way, to me, is unconscionable.
I totally agree. I think you're right. I think Andrade has everything that, even when you mentioned Big Cass's faults, like, what does Andrade have? An excellent skill set. Like, what does he also have? A wonderful manager who builds
hot,
heat.
She's hot. But, like, she can talk. Like, what do you need?
Exactly. No, I think that that's where we should end. So I think we say goodbye to Big Cass, but we think that the SmackDown roster absolutely can rebound because, as Tommy has so acutely just acknowledged, they have the perfect superstar to replace and surpass him already in their midst.
Love you, Andrade.
So with that, I think we will finish out the show with our stars of the night. That was a great discussion. Let us know any thoughts you guys have. But now we're going to finish off the show.
So our stars of the night, honorable mention out to Daniel Bryan, who didn't make our top 3, but he had a great showing in the Gauntlet match, as did The Miz, continuing their sort of feud, not feud, into the future, putting it off a little bit, but still, we're so hyped for it. Our number 3 star of the night was Sanity, finally making their way up after 8 weeks of waiting and knowing that they were on their way. They came in, in a non-match, kind of just squashed the Usos. I think that was a really nice way to do it, rather than just having some jobbers out from Toledo come out to no entrance, to no pop, and then have a match. I think it's a really cool way to book them in such a way that they are chaotic. That was their thing in NXT. They're all about wrecking everything and kind of creating chaos. So I think that was a great way for them to make their debut. Number 2, Becky Lynch, coming off a very disappointing loss at Money in the Bank. She was definitely about to grab the briefcase before Alexa came in. Think what you want about how that went, but she definitely came off with an L on the day. I think it was super important that she had a win. Last night on SmackDown, she really dealt with Billie Kay really well. The Iconics are fine right now. Maybe they might move into an enhancement talent kind of thing on SmackDown for the women's division. And Becky Lynch was the absolute beneficiary of their putting her over, which was great. And our number 1 star of the night, the new number 1 contender to the WWE Championship, that is the Bulgarian brute, Rusev. He did really well in that final match of the Gauntlet against The Miz. Really surprised, honestly, watching the match and seeing Rusev go out on top. I think I would say maybe, hopefully not too late for him, for the WWE to capitalize on his organic support from the fans with Rusev Day. I was really happy to see him win, super popped by it, and can't wait to see what's going to happen over the next couple weeks as he builds this feud with AJ. Rusev, you deserve it.
Well, that's going to do it for us here at Tag Me In Bro. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Tag Me In Bro. We subscribe to the podcast. We post everywhere. iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, iHeartRadio. So make sure you give us a listen. Please subscribe. As always, we want to hear your thoughts, your comments, your questions. We are part of the wrestling universe. We know you guys are too. So go online, check us out. I've been Taryn O'Connor. Thanks to my co-host Tommy Rowe. We are Team Less Little Less Big, your current Tag Me In Bro champions. And we will see you next week for another episode of SmackDown Live. Goodbye, universe.